Hello viewers, welcome to Top Notch Online TV. With you is none other than Teacher Fidelis of Alliance High School. I'm a teacher of English, an examiner, an author, and an editor. With me today, we have our beautiful teacher Emis from Alliance Girls High School. She's a teacher of English, an author, and an examiner. Next, we have teacher Rispa, PCA Kikuyu High School. She's a teacher of English, she is an examiner and a renowned author. Now students, we have discussed the characters in the book, we have looked at the summit, and today, using the same book, we shall be looking at the themes. What is a theme? A theme is the central idea. It is something that is recurring in a work of art. So looking at the Fathers of Nations, we shall be discussing a number of themes. And remember what we said when we had a discussion on how to answer questions in the excerpt. What do you use when you answer a question on a theme? We should use a noun or a noun phrase. So to start us off is Teacher Rispa discussing the theme of poor leadership.
Thank you for joining us. When you're looking at poor leadership, first of all, you need to understand what is poor leadership. Poor leadership is whereby leaders that have been given the power, the mandate by the people to govern them, they do contrary of the people's expectations. When you're looking at poor leadership in Fathers of the Nation, we shall concentrate, most of our points shall concentrate on the leader of Zimbabwe, the one that has really aggrieved Melusi. The leader in Zimbabwe, first of all, he has overstayed in power. Ever since the country gained independence, they've never known any other president. Therefore, the clinging to power is a sign of poor leadership, because when you stay in power that long, when are you giving the avenue for the leaders of tomorrow? They'll still be waiting for tomorrow that never comes. Still on the leader in Zimbabwe, we are looking at this man. To enable him stay in power, he is rigging elections. A case, for instance, elections had been carried out, and in his country they decided it was the right time to have a multi-party kind of politics. People volunteered to form political parties so that they can run against this leader. And the leader does not encourage any opposition. He's the kind of leader that is practicing, he wants to be an autocratic leader, the one that does not take any opposition. When they go to the polls, he manages to gather 99% of the votes, and then the opposition garners only the 1%. The opposition are admitting that, yes, they knew they would lose, but not by such a big margin. They're attributing his win, his 99% winning, due to the rigging of elections. Still on poor leadership, what the subjects are expecting of their leader. Is he really doing what is good for them? We're also looking at, still on the leader of Zimbabwe, he has run the economy down. He has run the economy down to an extent that the international community is interfering. The international community comes in introducing SAP, structural adjustment programs, but they still do not work in Zimbabwe. The man has run down the economy. They have even given him a name. They're calling him the bomber. The bomber is someone who ruins everything. That is the leader in Zimbabwe. We've also seen the leader in Zimbabwe is averse to opposition. You try oppose him, there'll be retribution, there'll be dire consequences. The time that the urban poor voted for the opposition, they were punished, bulldozers were brought, and their settlements were torn down. That is a poor leader. Away from Zimbabwe, we can also consider other leaders. For example, maybe the leader in Gambia. It has taken some time, but there has not been any development in Gambia. When they're holding the summit is when they're doing it in a rush, trying to tear down the slums, tear down the kiosks that are on the roadside, channeling water. At the same time, apart from channeling water, the common citizen is left to suffer, and it is being done by the leader. Their leader is the one who is causing the suffering to this common citizen. Another illustration of poor leadership, we can see it in Karanja's country, which is Kenya. In Karanja's country, The same thing that is happening to Gambia, no development. We're also seeing it happening in Kenya. These people do not concentrate on the development of infrastructure. In the long run, we have Karanja's daughter. Karanja's daughter, who is Tunisia, ends up losing her life because of poor infrastructure in the name of poor road networks. Also in Kenya, we are being told that the MPs keep passing bills that are favoring them. And to make matters worse, these leaders, they look at their money, and their money is not salary, therefore it cannot be taxed. Yet people like professors are being taxed. Their money is more, not taxed. The other people's money is less, yet it is being taxed. That is also poor leadership in Kenya. Another illustration of poor leadership, we are looking at Chineke Chiamaka, a representation of Nigeria. In Nigeria, a situation has arisen that there are some two warring sects that are fighting. And because of their fight, it has caused a rebellion in 3 different cities. And the president, instead of addressing the real issue, a leader, we've put him over there to look after our interest. The leader is not addressing the issue. In fact, what annoys Chiamaka is that he's referring to this as recent events. He is like downplaying how serious the issue is. Clashes, people are fighting. 2 warring parties. The man is not finding a solution. That is poor leadership. But when someone speaks against it, like Chiamaka does, using his church as a platform, he finds himself in jail among criminals. Still looking at another country, we are looking at Africa as a whole, the father of nations as a whole. Where is the poor leadership? Another poor leadership skill is exhibited in Libya. In Libya, there was a program that was developing nuclear weapons. And the West is developing nuclear weapons for the protection of their own people. Why is it that wrong for Africa to also develop their nuclear weapons? Now, this man is also an indication of poor leadership. The president of Libya, when Al-Qaeda strikes USA, this man, in fear of being suspected, in fear of the retribution that America will meet on them without applying any logic, when they are now retaliating, they will not apply any logic, the leader exhibits some kind of cowardice. He has not yet even been approached, but he is already destroying the feast of Allah to absolve himself from any trouble with America. He's not a fit leader. A leader characterized by cowardice, not a fit leader. We are still looking at others. We are also looking at others such as Newborn Wolamu. Newborn Wolamu, he had been working in the university, in fact at a junior position than Dr. Kimani Karanja. This man, ever since he went to power, he has grown his belly. If you can remember very well, there's a part that Kimani makes Kimani out of contempt. His growing stomach is supposed to be an inhibition, but he's still acquiring more women. But the poor leadership comes in the misuse of his power. This man, now that he has gone into parliament, first of all, he has grown his belly at the account of the common citizen. At the same time, poor leadership. As an MP, we expect better from Newborn. But Newborn is using his position to oppress other people. Poor leadership. Oppression from the leaders that seeps to the people is a sign of poor leadership. For example, he uses his power to snatch Kimani's wife. That is what I have on poor leadership.
Wonderful. So, of course, looking at poor leadership, students at home, remember we have the path travelers. The main reason as to why the 5 characters just undertook these Path Alpha mandate to go to the summit was because they were not happy with everything that was happening in their host countries. And as Teacher Rispa has discussed, we're looking at Newborn. This is an MP, looking at a situation whereby a professor is just getting peanuts. But what happens to the MP? He's using his position of power to get another wife. This was wife number 4. Number 4. As an MP, we expect better. They should be focusing on just bringing changes to the country. The roads, we should have better roads and so on and so forth. And looking at the other characters, then we see the same happening. And the teacher Rispa has shared more. And I think she has another point she would like to add.
Okay. I was almost forgetting, but still under poor leadership, I can pick an example of President Bangura.
Yeah.
President Bangura has been chosen a leader among the other heads of state. He's supposed to be the one to help them make a decision on whether to choose Path Alpha or Way Omega. But this man is a poor leader. He's presiding over a document he has never read, and he looks like he's using. He also says he does not intend to even read the document. How can a blind person lead other blind people? It is poor leadership.
Sure. Thank you for that addition. Of course, if you're looking at the presidents also, I remember in the last episode, we discussed the method committee, and that is where we're getting that information that the chair of the method committee had not read the document. And how do we now see him coming up with a discussion of the same? And I think on the same light, we can discuss the method that is the choice matrix. Again, it's this is on poor leadership, because how do you use a coin? Tossing a coin to decide on the fate of Africans. This is again on poor leadership. Now, the next thing we look at is betrayal. And of course, this is another major theme in the book, and Teacher Emmys will assist us.
Thank you, Teacher Fidelis. Hello, viewers. I'm going to look at the second theme. It's a main theme as well, betrayal. So betrayal, to give the definition, is to violate the confidence of someone or being treacherous to someone who trusts you. So if you break someone's trust, then we can say that you're treacherous, or that's betrayal. I'll start with Dr. Abiola Afolabi. Dr. Afolabi betrays the ends of state. They had invited him as the advisor to the ends of state during the summit. So this is someone they trusted to give them good counsel. This is someone they trusted to give them sound pieces of advice. So, but what does he do? He betrays their trust. Before the summit begins, he makes a deal with the director of AGDA, Mr. Longway, whereby he decides that he's going to go against Way Omega and in its place embrace Path Alpha. So this person goes against the deal that they had with the ends of state, and he does not even care to tell them. So he does it underground. So in the summit, they think that he's part of their group, but in real sense, he was against them. Yet he was supposed to advise them and support them. So that one incident of betrayal. The second one, I'm going to look at the president of Libya. So the president of Libya betrays Engineer Tahir's self. Just like my colleague, Teacher Rispa, has said, the president of Libya destroys the feast of Allah. When Tahir comes back to Libya, he was like very close to the president. He was the darling of the president, and together decided to build and support the Feast of Allah. The president supported it 100%. And Feast of Allah was so core to Tahir, it was like a baby to him. It was very close to his heart. So when now Al-Qaeda struck America, and the president decides to destroy Feast of Allah so that he can protect himself, because actually, why was he destroying it? It's not Libya that has struck America, so why destroy it? So he goes against the deal that they had with Tahir. So Tahir feels betrayed, and that is why he also joins Hagda to go and make Libya a better place, because they were also entitled to making weapons, just like the West countries, for their own protection. The third illustration I'm going to give under the theme of betrayal is the president of Zimbabwe. The president of Zimbabwe also betrays Melusi Ngobile, comrade Melusi Ngobile. When they were fighting Smith is a white man, when they were fighting the colonialists from Zimbabwe, they were a team. He was actually like the right-hand man of the president. They worked as a team. They were very close. So after now attaining independence in Zimbabwe, it was obvious or expected that he would acknowledge Melusi and maybe give him a ministerial post.
Yeah.
But what does he do? When he gets into power, now he becomes tribal. He's of the Shona tribe, and so now the Shona tribe turns against the Ndebele tribe, and Melusi, or Comrade Melusi, unfortunately, was of the Ndebele tribe. So there is that tribal war, and as a result, Comrade Melusi loses his wife Ziliza in the hands of the people that were directly given orders by the president, who was supposed to be very close to him.
Yeah.
So this is someone you've assisted to attain power, to get power, someone you've assisted to get the position that he is in. Yeah. But what does he pay you with? By destroying your home, killing your wife. So that was a very rate of betrayal. Yeah. So the next point I'm going to give is Mr. Walomu, newborn. Mr. Walomu betrays Professor Karanja. Yeah. He was Professor Karanja's junior colleague. So he was supposed to accord him that sort of respect. Yeah. This is someone you've worked with before. This someone was your senior at your place of work. So whatever happens later in life, you're supposed to respect this person. But once a newborn leaves teaching and enjoys politics, he become a different person altogether. He now has money, he now has power, and so he does not care about respecting other people in the society. So what does he do? He goes and takes, let me use the word steal, because that's the word that Professor Karanja uses, although he says that he has not stolen the wife. So he goes and steals Professor Karanja's wife, Asia, and he mocks Karanja by telling me that the reason why he's taking Asia, it's because Asia is old and old is gold. And number two, he has power. Yeah. He is a member of parliament. He has money. So he is in a position to do whatever he liked. So he betrayed someone whom they worked with, and that's the next illustration. To move on, Asia betrays her husband, Professor Karanja. They were married for over 30 years. She was 60 years old. Surely she was the first wife of Professor Karanja. 6 months after losing their only child, Tunisia, she abandons a marriage. And she boldly tells him that she is leaving one morning. It was evening, right? That she is going to leave. And why is she leaving? Because according to her, Karanja is not ambitious. According to her, she needs maybe a better life. She's actually portrayed as someone who is materialistic. So she leaves a husband of over 30 years and gets married to Mr. Newborn Walomu, who is way younger than she was. Again, someone who already had 3 young, beautiful wives. So she's leaving a marriage as the first and only wife and gets married to another young man as the fourth wife. Another instance of betrayal is whereby Pamela betrays her husband, Dr. Afolabi. They had been married for some years. And according to the African setup, a man is supposed to have children of his own. So, and Pamela on her aside didn't want children of her own because she says that Africa already had so many children. So why don't they go into that pool? She actually refers to it as a pool and get 2 children of their own instead of adding more children into an already overspilling pool of children. So the Africans, being Africans, what does the Yoruba tribe do? They send a young girl to Dr. Abiola to go and bear him children, because according to that tribe or the clansmen, that the white woman Pamela could not bear their son a child. But note, Abiola was not part of this scheme. He was as shocked as Pamela on finding his cousin Femi and this young girl in his house when they came from Washington. So he was as shocked as Pamela. So he was not part of the scheme. And so what does Pamela do? Instead of Pamela listening to him and sorting out that issue, because it was actually a minor issue, she rushes to leave the house. And within a week, she was already sending him divorce papers. So instead of being united as a family and fight this and come together and look for a solution, she leaves, abandons Abiola, and goes back to her country and immediately sends him divorce papers. So the last point I have is where the Nigerian government betrays Pastor Chiamaka Chineke. So I believe every member of every state has a freedom of expression. So Chiamaka was just using his platform, his church, to express his own opinion according to how he felt the leadership of the Nigerian government was taking the wrong turn. So he was like kind of correcting the government, telling them this is not the right approach that you should take to very important matters. I'm not going to go into details because my colleague talked about the issues affecting Nigeria and how the president had poor leadership skills. So when he uses that, what does the government do? Instead of correcting their ways and making Nigeria a better place, or maybe calling him and let's talk. Maybe what can we do to make Nigeria better? They arrest him. They do not only arrest him, they also revoke his license and he can no longer preach in Nigeria. In fact, he's banned from ever preaching in Nigeria. So the government actually betrays him as a citizen of Nigeria. He had the freedom to expression or to his own opinions. So those are the points I have on betrayal.
Could I add a point?
Sure.
Still on betrayal, we can focus on Miss Fiona Mackenzie. Miss Fiona Mackenzie, when she joined VOA, their leader had told Nick, you can speak freely in front of Miss Mackenzie. She's one of us now. Then later on, Miss Mackenzie, in an attempt to show gratitude to Afolabi for having saved her life, she goes ahead and divulges information about the silent listener to Dr. Afolabi. That's also betrayal.
Thank you.
Sure, that is another instance. Looking at all the characters and instances that we have discussed on betrayal, and I'm sure the student at home is thinking about what teacher Emis has shared, especially on Pamela. So I will just pose this question to teacher Emis. Do you feel like the Yoruba community also betrayed Dr. Afolabi, or what can you say about the Yoruba community?
Yeah, sure they did, because he had the right to make decisions in his life.
Yes.
Whether he wanted children or not, I believe that was his personal decision to make. It had nothing to do with the clan. But he's an African. Africans are known to be Africans, so they can't let their own just like that. So meddling in his private life is also a form of betrayal.
Thank you, teacher Emis. So looking at betrayal, another major theme in the book, ensure that you have gone through the main characters, and I think our teacher can tell us here. Sometimes when you want to describe a theme, if you have this question in the excerpt, if you want to describe now the theme of betrayal, can you use characters, or do you use situations, or can you actually use both when answering a question on themes?
You can actually use both. Because in the excerpt you can use both. But for this kind of a question, I feel in an essay question, the character approach is the best. Right? I know, maybe you can tell us. It is. The character approach is the best. But for the excerpt, provided the illustration comes out clearly, whichever approach you take,
you're good to go.
Yeah, you're good to go.
You're good to go. And remember, when you're talking about the themes, again, we are focusing on fathers of nations being tested as an excerpt. If you're having a question as an excerpt, then remember, if the question has stated that use use the theme, or talk about the theme in the excerpt, then you focus on what has been provided for you. If you have been requested maybe to use other parts of the book, then you can do that. And last but not least, we have one more theme to look at, and this is neocolonialism. Teacher Rispa, what can you say about this theme?
Okay, neocolonialism. First of all, for our students to understand what is neocolonialism. Neocolonialism is where African countries seem like they got independence. Yes, we got our independence in theory, but then it happens that some influence is coming from the West. Our former colonial masters, are controlling aspects that are running in Africa. That is what you're calling neocolonialism. Neocolonialism, we can look at it from two perspectives. We can look at it from actions from our former colonial masters, then trying to influence the Africans. On the other hand, we can also be looking at neocolonialism from a mental point of view. In the words maybe of one singer, they're talking about we need to free ourselves from mental slavery. The slavery can also be mental.
Yeah.
Looking at maybe the instances where neocolonialism exists, first of all, you can talk about Way Omega. Way Omega, there's a part that it looks like it was being proposed by the African Union. But they're talking about, the truth be told, this one came about as a result of the West were threatening to withdraw aid if Africans did not change. That is one instance of neocolonialism. The threat of withdrawing aid unless the Africans dance to their tune. To put it together with, when Kimani is speaking to his daughter Tuni, he refers to an instance where there was global economic recession. The economy of the whole world was doing bad.
Yeah.
Now to come and restructure the economy, they wanted change in Africa. They had to force the Africans to undertake some changes. Otherwise, still, they always capitalize on the aid. They will withdraw the aid. Another third illustration, we're still on, mostly the West is using the foreign aid to manipulate the Africans. Also in Zimbabwe, when the economy was in shambles, they had the international community that can be found on page 94. The international community was proposing some structural adjustment programs to be undertaken. That was not from Zimbabwe really, but the international community. If you could pause and ask yourself, who is the international community? You're going back to the West.
Yeah.
Our former colonial masters.
Yeah.
As much as it was tried in Zimbabwe, it still failed terribly, but there was a push to actually make use of it.
Yeah.
Then we are looking at another illustration of neocolonialism. We can look at it from a mental point of view. And on a mental point of view, I have 2 points that will make up for my point number 4 and point number 5. Let's start with at the summit. At the summit, we are looking at some countries that were considered poles of influence.
Yeah.
Among the poles of influence, they talk about Kenya. Kenya was a darling to the West. If you mess with Kenya, you've messed with the West.
Yeah.
Now this person, he's also the president of Gambia, is also having a mentality that is neocolonized. He needs to recognize the presence of Kenya. He goes to shake the hand of the Kenyan president to show them that we recognize you, darling of the West. There's still an element of mentally being controlled from the West. Then making up to my last point, that makes up for point number 5, we're also seeing some kind of mental slavery that can be exhibited through a waiter in the hotel that Melusi and Longwe were having a meal. When they were having a meal, when they're looking at Longwe, they're thinking he's a white man because he's white in color.
Yeah.
So they do not realize he's a white South African. When he calls the waiter comes running. There's that element of slavery still. And once they're done with dining, once they're done with eating their meal, the book is very particular. It says, when the waiter is now asking Longwe, I hope you enjoyed your meal, totally ignoring Melusi.
Yes.
The book is very particular, totally ignoring Melusi. We are seeing that. From that you can conclude these people are still colonized mentally. A white person is important. They need to be recognized. I recognize that you came into my restaurant. I need to know, did you like my food?
Yeah.
Over there, I hope the students are able to understand what we mean by neocolonialism.
Yeah, that is well done. Of course, looking at this theme, we're looking at many African countries. Yeah, we have gained independence, but is it working? Is it working? Yeah, and looking at fathers of nations, we're looking at Paul B. Vita. trying to showcase whatever is happening in the African countries. And we need to get away from the mental colonialism, because in a way, if mentally you're still there's no way you make a step forward. So I think, as Teacher Rispa has shared, I think that is the first step as Africans. We need to get from that mentality so that we can make a few steps towards the kind of Africa that we want. And students at home, just note that we have so many themes. These are just but a few. And in our next session, we shall be looking at more themes in the Fathers of Nations. And as you stay at home, remember that this channel is the leading channel in providing quality content for the students all over the world. So if you're watching these, ensure that you look out for the next episode as we get to discuss more themes in the Fathers of Nations. Until next time, is a goodbye for us.